Most people imagine Soviet gulags as just another kind of prison, perhaps with extra snow. They picture inmates sitting in cells, occasionally doing some work, cold but manageable. Nothing could be further from reality. The Soviet Gulag system was essentially slavery where the currency was bread. The workday lasted 16 hours, and your employer's business model was working you to death. So yeah, if these stories help you sleep, hit subscribe. And I'm curious, what time is it where you are? Comment below. Got comments from Seattle to Stockholm last time. The time zone thing never stops fascinating me. Alright, tonight we're covering Soviet gulags. But before we begin, get comfortable. I mean, really comfortable. Pillows fluffed, blanket, situation handled, perfect. Trust me on this. So congratulations. You just woke up in 1937 Soviet Union. It's 4 a.m. and the pounding on your door isn't your neighbor's bass heavy music. It's the NKVD, Stalin's secret police. Your crime? Who knows? Maybe you were 5 minutes late to work yesterday. Maybe you cracked a joke about Stalin's mustache. Maybe your neighbor wanted your apartment and told authorities you were plotting against the government. The reason doesn't matter because you're already guilty. The two men bursting into your room don't see you as human. To them, you're just today's quota. They have arrest targets to meet, and you're number 7. As you groggily try to comprehend what's happening there, already tearing through your meager possessions hunting for evidence. A book with suspicious underlined passages. A letter from a disgraced relative. Anything will do. You're given 10 minutes to dress and pack. 10 minutes to say goodbye to your life. What do you take when you might never return? Your warmest clothes, certainly, though you have no idea how inadequate they'll prove. Some family photos, perhaps, if the officers permit it, which they usually don't. The hardest part? If you have family, they're watching in silent terror. Your spouse knows better than to protest. Your children stare with wide, confused eyes. Everyone understands that making a scene will only mean more arrests. This scene plays out in apartments across the Soviet Union. Every single night, hundreds of thousands of similar goodbyes whispered in darkness. The Black Raven, that's what people call the ominous black prison van, waits outside. Inside, you find yourself crushed against other bewildered, terrified people. Some weep silently, others sit in stunned disbelief. A few Gulag veterans stare ahead with hollow eyes, already conserving energy for what's coming. The interrogation that follows makes no sense because it's not supposed to. It's theater. Logic has no place here. You're ordered to confess to absurd crimes, to implicate friends in non-existent conspiracies. The interrogator, bleary-eyed from endless shifts of extracting confessions, doesn't care about truth. He cares about meeting his confession quota. Just sign, he says, shoving a document toward you. Easier for everyone. Some resist for days, weeks, enduring sleep deprivation and beatings, but eventually nearly everyone signs. What choice exists? The system isn't designed to find truth. It's designed to feed the camps. After your trial, a 3-minute formality where you're signed. Confession is read aloud. You're sentenced. 10 years is standard. 10 years of hard labor for crimes you didn't commit. You want to laugh at the absurdity, but you're too exhausted to even manage that. The journey to the camps is where true horror begins. Prisoners call it EAP, transit. You're herded into cattle cars. 80 people crammed into space meant for 8 cows. There's one barred window and a floor hole for a toilet. The stench becomes unbearable within hours. Make room for the living, a prisoner shouts when someone collapses. It's not cruelty, it's necessity. In this packed rail car, every inch matters. The dead get pushed aside, sometimes stacked in corners until the next stop. No one can spare them more space than that. The journey can last weeks, depending on destination. The most feared camps are in Kolyma Inn, far northeast Siberia. Getting there means not just a train ride, but also a sea voyage on ships, just as crowded and filthy as the trains. Prisoners call these vessels floating coffins. Many don't survive the trip. The food during transport is a daily ration of about 300 g bread, roughly fist-sized, and soup so thin it's practically hot water with a whisper of cabbage. This isn't enough to survive on, but that's intentional. The weak will die en route. The system considers this efficient. Water is often scarcer than food. Sometimes the train stops and guards distribute water. Sometimes they don't. Prisoners have been seen licking condensation off the metal walls. In winter, they eat snow passed through the small window. In summer, many die of dehydration. Sleep is nearly impossible standing up, but prisoners develop systems. They take turns sitting or lying down. They learn to sleep in 20-minute shifts, standing up, leaning against each other. Like dominoes, your muscles scream from strain, but eventually, exhaustion overpowers discomfort. The guards check cars at stops, sometimes removing the dead, sometimes not bothering. They don't see people, just cargo. One baby-faced guard casually mentions that yesterday's train lost 43 pieces of cargo too. Cold, not people, cargo. You drift in and out of consciousness, losing time. Days and nights blur together. The train's rhythm becomes your heartbeat. The smells of unwashed bodies, waste, and fear become so constant you stop noticing. Your world narrows to the next bread ration, the next sip of water, the next chance to close your eyes. You learn to spot death's approach, a certain vacant stare, lips pulled back from teeth in a grimace, shallow, irregular breathing. When you see these signs, you move away if possible, not from cruelty, but because when they collapse, there will be a violent scramble for their bread and space. This is what the system has reduced you to in mere weeks. One morning, or perhaps afternoon, it's impossible to tell. The train finally stops. The doors screech open. The light blinds after rail car darkness. As your eyes adjust, you see it. Endless white snow stretching to the horizon, broken only by wooden watchtowers and barbed wire. The air stabs your lungs like knives. Welcome to your new home, a guard smirks. You'll be here until you die or your sentence ends. Mostly they die, he adds to another guard, not bothering to lower his voice. You've arrived at world's edge. This is no ordinary prison. This is the Gulag, a place designed to extract every ounce of labor from your body before it fails. As you stumble down from the train on legs that barely remember walking, you realize with perfect clarity your old life is over. From now on, there's only survival. Not like your warm bed now with its soft blankets and comfortable mattress. Not like your safe, heated room where hunger means waiting briefly for a full meal. The contrast between that comfort and the Gulag's harsh reality couldn't be more extreme. The guards shout, organizing new arrivals into lines. Men one side, women the other. Those who can't stand get tossed onto sleds like firewood. They might go to the infirmary or straight to mass graves encircling camp. You don't know yet that the infirmary is often just a stop on the way to those same graves. What you do know with absolute certainty is that your survival depends on the next few hours. The coat that seemed warm enough in Moscow is laughably inadequate here, where temperatures routinely hit minus 40 degrees Celsius. The shoes comfortable for city walking will cause frostbite within hours of outdoor work. Your new reality takes shape. Every prisoner around you thinks the same thing. How do I survive this? What deals must I make? What skills can I trade? Who must I befriend or avoid? Because in the Gulag, these aren't social questions. They're life and death distinctions. As you shuffle forward in line, a prisoner in camp uniform whispers as he passes, whatever work they assign, try getting transferred to kitchen or hospital. Outdoor winter work means short lifespans. Your first Gulag survival lesson. Many more will come, each paid for in suffering. But, for now, you focus on putting one foot in front of the other, moving toward the processing center where your camp life officially begins. The wooden building. Ahead has smoke rising from its chimney. The processing center operates with dehumanizing efficiency. First comes the shaving. Every prisoner's head is shorn to the scalp, regardless of gender. Guards laugh as women sob, watching their hair fall to the floor. Men clench their jaws, clinging to whatever dignity remains. It's not just about hygiene or preventing lice, though the camps claim that's the reason. It's about stripping away identity. Next comes the disinfection. A shower with water so scalding it burns your skin, followed immediately by an icy blast. The shock makes people scream. Some older prisoners collapse from the sudden temperature shift. No one helps them up. Then the uniforms. Not real uniforms at all, but mismatched rags. Jackets with missing buttons, pants too long or too short, boots that never fit. Too large, and they cause blisters that fester. Too small, and your toes freeze. Everything is threadbare, patched, perpetually damp. Nothing is warm enough for Siberia. Name. Barks an administrator without looking up from his paperwork. You answer. He scribbles something down, then assigns you a number. From now on, that's your identity. You'll answer to it, work under it, possibly die with it as your only epitaph. Your existence has been reduced to digits in a logbook. Profession, he asks next. This is crucial. Those with useful skills, doctors, engineers, cooks, might land slightly better positions. Those without go to general labor, where mortality is highest. Whether your answer helps or not, the final step is the same. You're assigned to a brigade, a work unit, and a barracks. Then you're shoved outside again, clutching your meager belongings, to find your new home among the identical wooden buildings stretching into the distance. The barracks is so overcrowded that bunks are stacked 3 high, with 2, sometimes 3, prisoners sharing each one. There's no privacy, no space to call your own. The air is thick with the stench of unwashed bodies, the sickly sweet odor of infection, and the smoke from the small stove that barely warms the vast space. A prisoner who's been there longer explains the system as you try to find a place to sleep. Work assignments come at 5 tomorrow morning. Food rations depend on how much work you do. Don't steal from other prisoners. They'll kill you for a crust of bread here. Don't trust the criminals. Don't cross the guards. And don't get sick. He pauses, seeing the overwhelmed look on your face. Then, unexpectedly, he offers a small kindness, the corner of his own sleeping space. First night's the hardest, he says. After that, you either learn to live with it, or you don't live long. As you lay your head down on the hard wooden bunk, you realize you haven't eaten since the train. Your stomach gnaws with hunger, but the kitchen is closed until morning. Around you, prisoners cough, cry out in their sleep, or whisper in hushed tones. Someone is quietly reciting what sounds like poetry. Someone else is silently weeping. The reality of your situation crashes over you in waves. 10 years. 10 years in this place. You've been here less than a day, and already it feels like an eternity. How will you survive a decade? How will you survive the winter that's only just beginning? Outside, the northern lights dance across the sky, beautiful and indifferent to the suffering below. Inside, you close your eyes and try to remember the face of someone you loved in your past life. It feels like grasping at smoke. The Gulag has a way of erasing everything but the present moment. And the present is nothing but cold, hunger, and fear. Tomorrow will bring your first day of work, your first test of whether you can adapt to this new reality. For now, exhaustion pulls you toward unconsciousness. Your last thought before sleep claims you is simple. I have to survive. Whatever it takes, I have to survive. From somewhere in the barracks, a prisoner begins to hum a folk song from home. Others join in silently, afraid to make too much noise, but desperate for this small connection to the world outside. It's a moment of humanity in a place designed to destroy it. And right now, these brief moments are all that separate the living from the dead. Morning arrives too soon, announced by a guard banging a metal rod against a rail. The sound cuts through your fitful sleep like a physical blow. Around you, prisoners jolt awake, already scrambling for their boots with practiced urgency. Being late for roll call means reduced rations, or worse. Outside in the pre-dawn darkness, your breath forms thick clouds in the frigid air. Stars still glitter overhead, their beauty obscene against the bleakness of the camp. Guards patrol the lines, counting prisoners as they shiver in formation. Some sway on their feet, weak from hunger or illness. Those who collapse are dragged away. Nobody asks where. As the sun finally breaches the horizon, casting long shadows across the snow, you get your first real look at the camp in daylight. Watchtowers loom at regular intervals along the perimeter fence. Rifle-toting guards pace the walkways, their breath visible in the cold. Beyond the fence lies nothing but taiga, the vast Siberian wilderness that forms a natural prison. Even if you escaped the fences and guards, the wilderness itself would kill you within days. Today, announces the camp commander, a squat man with a face like dough, we begin construction on the new railway spur. Quotas have been increased. Anyone failing to meet theirs will have rations reduced. A collective tension ripples through the prisoners. Increased quotas mean more deaths. Everyone knows it, including the commander. He doesn't care. In fact, there's a brutal efficiency to it. The weak die faster, saving the state the trouble of feeding them. As prisoners disperse to their work assignments, an older man falls into step beside you. "First day, huh?" he asks quietly. "Stick with me if you can. I've been here 3 years. I know how to stay alive." You look at him with surprise and hope. 3 years is an eternity here. Maybe he really does know something about survival. "Name's Mikhail," he says. "Former engineer from Leningrad. Got 10 years for telling a joke about Stalin's mustache at a dinner party. My host reported me the next morning." He laughs, a dry, humorless sound. "Some joke, eh? 10 years for 10 words." As you trudge toward the work site, Mikhail continues your crash course in Gulag survival. Rule 1. Conserve energy whenever possible. Never work harder than you have to. The guards want to see motion, not results. Look busy, move slowly, save your strength. He demonstrates at the work site, shoveling snow with deliberate, unhurried movements that appear productive but minimize exertion. Rule 2. Food is life. Never give up your ration. Never share unless you're getting something better in return. Eat every crumb, lick the bowl, and if you find extra food, hide it. The moment you start giving food away is the moment you start dying. Nearby, hundreds of prisoners clear snow, dig frozen earth, or haul materials. Many look like walking skeletons, their uniforms hanging off emaciated frames. They move like automatons, eyes fixed on nothing, conserving even the energy required to glance around. Rule 3. Mikhail nods toward a group of rough-looking men who aren't working as hard as the others. Stay away from the criminals. The political prisoners, that's us. We're at the bottom. The criminals run things among the prisoners. They steal, they hurt people, and the guards let them because it keeps us divided. You watch as a guard walks past the loafing criminals without comment, then stops to scream at an elderly man struggling with a wheelbarrow. The contrast is stark and deliberate. Divide and rule. The Gulag's foundational principle. Final rule. Mikhail's voice drops lower. Find something to live for. Family outside. God. Revenge. Doesn't matter what. Just something to wake up for. The ones who die fastest are the ones who lose hope. You nod, absorbing this while keeping your shovel moving. Already your hands are stiff with cold, and you've been working less than an hour. How will you last a full day? How will you last 10 years? Mikhail seems to read your thoughts. "One day at a time," he says simply. "That's all anyone does here. 1 hour. 1 minute. If that's all you can manage, just keep breathing. Keep moving. Don't think too far ahead." The morning crawls by in a haze of exhaustion and cold. By lunch, you can't feel your toes, and your hands are raw despite the rags wrapped around them. The promised meal? A ladle of thin soup, mostly hot water with a few cabbage leaves and the rare potato fragment, and a small piece of bread. Mikhail shows you how to eat slowly, savoring each bite, making the meager meal last. "The bread is everything," he explains. "The soup just warms you briefly. The bread keeps you alive." Around you, prisoners employ various strategies. Some gulp their food immediately, desperate to quell the gnawing hunger. Others, like Mikhail, eat methodically. A few make trades, a portion of soup for extra bread, a cigarette for a potato. My wife and daughter are still in Leningrad, Mikhail says suddenly. I think about them every day. That's my reason. What's yours? The question lingers as you chew your last bit of bread. What is worth surviving for in this frozen hell? The answer differs for everyone, but finding it is the difference between life and death in the camps. As the whistle blows, ending the brief reprieve, Mikhail stands with a grimace. Back to work. Remember what I told you. Move like you're working hard, but save your strength. We've got 8 more hours before dinner, and that's when the real cold sets in. You follow him back to the railway spur, mimicking his deliberate motions. Already, you're learning the choreography of survival, the dance between appearing productive and conserving energy. It's a delicate balance, one every prisoner must master or perish. The afternoon stretches endlessly. The sun, already beginning its early winter descent, offers little warmth. Your muscles scream with fatigue, but stopping means freezing, so you keep moving. The numbness in your hands and feet is dangerous, a sign of frostbite setting in. Wiggle your fingers and toes whenever you can, Mikhail advises. Frostbite means the infirmary, and many who go there never return. As darkness falls, the guards call for the day's production tally. Your brigade has fallen short. The frozen ground was too hard, the workers too weak. The senior guard makes a notation, reduced rations for everyone tomorrow. The march back to camp is silent, heavy with exhaustion and the dread of hunger to come. At the gate, guards count prisoners and inspect for contraband, anything that might be fashioned into a tool or weapon. An old man is caught with a piece of wire hidden in his boot. He's pulled aside for punishment. No one looks. No one speaks. There's nothing to be done. Back in the barracks, prisoners engage in evening survival rituals, examining hands and feet for frostbite, mending clothes with fishbone needles, sharing whispered conversations, precious moments of humanity in an inhuman place. You collapse onto your bunk, every muscle quivering. Mikhail sits beside you, offering a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Here, extra bread, just for tonight. Tomorrow you're on your own. The gesture brings unexpected tears to your eyes. In this place where selfishness equals survival, kindness feels shocking. Why help me? You ask. Mikhail is quiet for a moment. Someone helped me when I arrived. A man named Yuri taught me what I'm teaching you. He died last winter. Pneumonia. He shrugs. Besides, more hands make lighter work. The brigade needs strong workers to meet quota. You understand the pragmatism beneath the kindness. Nothing in the Gulag is purely altruistic. Survival depends on calculation as much as compassion. As you eat the gifted bread slowly, Anna joins you, her face drawn with exhaustion but eyes alert. The new one needs proper mittens, she says. The hospital's mending room might trade for some. Mikhail nods. What's the cost? Half a bread ration. An enormous price. Half a day's nutrition. But frostbitten hands mean death, just more slowly. I can pay, you say, though the thought of less food makes your stomach clench. Anna shakes her head. Not your bread. Mine. But you'll owe me. She gives a tired smile. Nothing comes free here. Remember that. This is your introduction to the Gulag's brutal economy. Everything has value. Food, clothing, tools, medicine, even knowledge. Prisoners trade their meager possessions to meet desperate needs. A broken spoon might buy a few puffs of a cigarette. A needle could trade for an extra ladle of soup. Every transaction is calculated, every need weighed against vanishing resources. First rule of trading, Mikhail says, seeing your interest. Never show desperation. Second rule, never trade all of anything. Keep something back. You never know when you'll need it. As night deepens, the barracks door opens, admitting a gust of frigid air and a new face. A short man with darting eyes. Several prisoners nod to him with something like respect. That's Isaac, Mikhail whispers. Camp doctor. Unofficial, of course. The real doctors barely treat political prisoners. He was a surgeon in Moscow before his arrest. Now he trades medical help for whatever he can get. What was his crime? Jewish, Mikhail says simply. That's enough these days. Isaac moves through the barracks, checking bandages, examining swollen joints. Finally, he reaches your group. New arrival, he says, eyeing you clinically. Let me see your hands. You hold them out. Red, cracked, already damaged. Isaac clicks his tongue. You'll lose fingers like this. Maybe worse. From a hidden pocket, he produces a small tin of grease, bare fat mixed with pine resin. Rub this in every night. Won't fix it, but helps. You stare at the precious tin. What do I trade for this? Isaac smiles tiredly. First one's free. After that, we talk payment. Maybe you have skills I can use. You remember your claimed profession. Engineering design. Isaac nods. Good. I need diagrams for medical training. Come see me when your hands heal enough to hold a pencil. As he moves on, you examine the small tin, bewildered by this unexpected gift. Don't look so surprised, Anna says. We help each other when we can. Not from kindness, from necessity. No one survives alone here. Mikhail agrees. The authorities expect us to turn on each other like animals. Sometimes we do, but there's resistance in cooperation, in remembering we're human. Small defiances, but they matter. As exhaustion pulls you towards sleep, Mikhail offers one last observation. Notice who participated tonight. All politicals, no criminals. They think we're soft, but we outlast them. They fight the camp with their fists. We fight it with our minds. That night, despite your empty stomach, you sleep more soundly than expected. Your dreams fill with poetry and theater instead of the usual nightmares. The human mind's ability to find moments of transcendence in hell continues to astonish you. The last thing you hear before sleep claims you is Mikhail's voice in the darkness. Remember, one day at a time, just one day at a time. Sunday arrives, the one day each month when prisoners don't work, not out of religious consideration, but because even the Soviet system recognizes machines need maintenance. And in the Gulag, prisoners are machines. What happens on rest days? You ask Mikhail as you finish your morning gruel. Depends, he says, glancing around for guards. Some rest, some trade, some try to improve their shelters. He lowers his voice. Smart ones learn. He leads you to a corner where a small group gathers around Isaac. The doctor is drawing diagrams in the dust, frostbite stages. First, skin reddens. Second, blisters form. Third, flesh blackens. He wipes the drawings away. Prevention is everything. Keep extremities warm. Keep moving. Don't let sweat freeze on your skin. This is an underground medical school. Isaac teaching survival skills to anyone willing to listen. You join the circle as he moves to hypothermia, pneumonia, dysentery, the Gulag's top killers. After the lesson, Isaac pulls you aside. Your hands are better, ready to help with drawings. He produces a scrap of paper and pencil stub, priceless contraband. Your task, sketch anatomical diagrams from his descriptions, creating a crude medical reference to hide from guards. Why the secrecy? You ask, sketching a respiratory system. Knowledge is power, Isaac says. They don't want us having either. Across the barracks, other groups form. Anna teaches French to 3 younger prisoners. Pavel hosts a chess game with no board. Players call moves from memory. The University of the Excluded, Mikhail calls it grimly. Best education in the USSR, if you survive the entrance exam. This intellectual resistance, preserving knowledge, culture, humanity in a system designed to destroy all 3, strikes you as both futile and essential. What use is poetry where people freeze to death? Yet these activities sustain something beyond physical survival. The scene shatters when guards burst in with a civilian inspector. Prisoners scramble. Isaac's papers vanish into hidden pockets. Anna's French lesson becomes a mending circle. The inspector pokes at the stove, frowns at thin blankets, makes notes. Pure theater. When he spots your pencil, Mikhail intervenes. Work requisition forms. Comrade Inspector. I was explaining proper completion. The inspector moves on, but the message is clear. Even Sunday's fragile respite operates under surveillance. They took our Sunday meal last inspection, Pavel mutters afterward. Said feeding non-workers was wasteful. The cruelty is calculated, starving prisoners further to assert control. As the day wears on, you witness the Gulag's shadow economy. Verona, the criminal boss, holds court near the door, trading food for favors. A thin man hands him a handmade wooden comb. Verona passes back a food packet. Another prisoner trades a letter, to be smuggled out, for foot wrappings. He has guard connections, Mikhail explains. Anything's available, for a price Verona sets. Later, Stepan organizes roof repairs. On the roof, you see the camp's full scale, dozens of barracks stretching to the horizon, each surrounded by fences and towers. How many camps like this exist, you ask? Hundreds, Stepan says. From here to the Pacific. Millions imprisoned. Too many to bury properly. The industrial scale of suffering is numbing. Your pain, a single drop in an ocean. That evening, Isaac organizes an illicit cultural event. Whispers of Pushkin's poetry, a Chekhov monologue performed by a former actor named Leonid. For a few minutes, the barracks becomes a theater, the audience transformed from slaves to citizens. They can take everything else, Anna whispers as Leonid bows to silent applause. But not what we carry in our minds. This preservation of art, not just survival, but civilization, is the deepest resistance. As you drift to sleep, Mikhail's voice cuts through the dark. We outlast them not by being stronger, but by remembering who we are. In your comfortable bed now, this might sound inspirational. In the Gulag, it's oxygen. Winter descends with the subtlety of an executioner's axe. The first heavy snowfall in late October transforms the camp into a frozen purgatory, its pristine white veneer masking the suffering festering beneath. You've survived 7 months in the Gulag, but the veterans' warnings echo in your mind. You haven't endured true hardship until you've weathered a Siberian winter. Preparations begin with desperate urgency. Barracks walls are stuffed with scavenged rags to block drafts. Every scrap of spare fabric is hoarded for extra layers. Isaac organizes frostbite prevention drills, demonstrating how to wrap feet in overlapping rags. Layers trap heat better than bulk, he stresses, his breath visible in the freezing air. And never let moisture linger. Dampness kills faster than cold. Stepan, who survived 3 winters in a mining camp, offers the most crucial advice. Find your reason to wake each morning when the darkness seems endless. The mind breaks before the body does. His words take on grim reality when December's killing cold arrives. Each dawn reveals new empty bunks, men who simply chose not to wake. The winter routine becomes a brutal ballet of survival. Roll call in darkness, the mercury hovering at -40 degrees Celsius. Work continues despite blizzards. Timber cutting where sap freezes mid-flow, making axes bounce off tree trunks. Prisoners develop a repertoire of micro-movements, constant toe wiggling, shoulder rolls, to maintain circulation without expending precious energy. You're learning, Mikhail notes approvingly as you mimic the veterans' techniques. First winter is always hardest. Your body hasn't learned the rhythms yet. By January, the camp becomes a landscape of ghosts. Hollow-cheeked figures shuffle through snowdrifts, their uniforms hanging like shrouds. The mortality rate spikes predictably, bodies stacked like cordwood behind the infirmary, frozen too solid for burial until spring. Hunger becomes existential. The standard ration, never adequate, now constitutes slow suicide. Desperate prisoners risk beatings to forage for pine needles, against scurvy, or birch sap for energy. When Dimtry eats rat poison mistaking it for grain, his convulsive death serves as grim warning. You'll hallucinate about food, Anna warns. She describes dreaming of peeling potatoes for hours, only to wake clutching empty air. The mind's betrayal feels crueler than any guard's club. The coldest night comes in late January. The barracks stove coughs feeble heat as temperatures plunge below -60 degrees Celsius. Then something remarkable happens. Leonid the actor begins describing summer heat. Sun on Yalta's stone steps. Heat rising in visible waves. Others join, weaving a collective tapestry of warmth memories until the air itself seems to thaw. Guards confiscate the makeshift bomb of words, but the spell holds. That night, no one dies. By March's end, you emerge changed. Your body has consumed its own muscle, leaving a skeletal frame. Your mind operates differently, calculating calorie expenditure for every action, scanning constantly for threats. Yet within this harsh adaptation, you've discovered an unexpected resilience. They wanted to break us into obedient machines, Isaac observes during a rare moment of candor. Instead, they created survivors who can endure anything. As spring's first snowdrops push through frozen earth, you realize the profound truth. The Gulag's greatest failure wasn't its cruelty, but its inability to extinguish the stubborn human spark that compels prisoners to share bread, recite poetry, and remember warmth during the coldest night. Spring arrives like a hesitant thief, stealing winter's grip 1 degree at a time. The snow retreats into filthy puddles, exposing the camp's accumulated horrors, bodies frozen mid-collapse, makeshift graves now visible through melting ice. You've survived your first Gulag winter, an accomplishment that earns silent nods from veterans. Many who arrived with you didn't. Their faces, once vivid in memory, blur like figures in a thawing photograph. The first winter is the hardest, Mikhail tells you as you slog through knee-deep mud to the work site. Your body didn't know how to prepare. Next winter will be. He stops himself, the unspoken truth hanging between you. That survival implies enduring this again. The camp transforms with the season. Where winter enforced a grim unity of suffering, spring reveals hierarchies. The criminal prisoners grow bolder, their summer dominance reasserted through stolen rations and barracks violence. The political prisoners, engineers, teachers, poets, retreat into their own survival strategies. You notice changes in yourself too. Your hands, once soft with intellectual work, now move with the automatic precision of tools. Your mind operates differently, calculating every action's caloric cost, scanning constantly for advantage. Most disturbingly, you've developed what Anna calls Gulag eyes, the ability to watch a man collapse without breaking stride. Don't mourn that, she says when you confess your shame. It's what keeps you alive. Isaac organizes clandestine foraging lessons, which weeds contain vitamins, which tree barks can be boiled into weak tea. The knowledge spreads through the prisoner network like oxygen to suffocating men. Guards retaliate with beatings, but hunger makes risk-takers of everyone. One May evening, nearly a year into your sentence, a miracle occurs. Fyodor, a quiet bookkeeper from Odessa, produces a handmade fiddle crafted from scavenged wood and stolen wire. When he draws the first quavering notes across its strings, the barracks falls utterly still. For 15 transcendent minutes, music, real music, fills the Gulag. Tears streak filthy faces as men remember weddings, village dances, childhood lullabies. Even the criminals sit motionless, their usual predatory energy suspended. The guards break the spell, of course. The fiddle is smashed, Fyodor dragged to the isolation cell. But something irreversible has happened. That night, no one dreams of bread or warmth. They dream of beauty. You see, Mikhail whispers in the darkness. This is why they fear us. A man who remembers music cannot be fully broken. As summer progresses, you notice creativity everywhere. Tiny carvings hidden in wall cracks, poems memorized and whispered during work, a prisoner who arranges pebbles into intricate patterns each morning. These acts of defiance require precious energy, yet persist stubbornly. Useless, yes, remarks Pavel as you admire his latest wood carving. But if I stop making beautiful things, I become what they say I am. Just a number, just a body for labor. By your 1-year anniversary, you've learned the Gulag's terrible calculus. That helping others often means endangering yourself. That morality becomes fluid at starvation's edge. And that the system's true cruelty lies not in its violence, but in its relentless erosion of hope. Yet spring's greatest lesson emerges unexpectedly. As you watch new arrivals stumble through the gates, their faces mirroring your own past terror, you find yourself whispering survival advice to their uncomprehending backs. Mikhail catches you doing this and smiles his rare, grim smile. Now you understand. We survive by remembering who we were and by becoming what we must be. That night, as you drift towards sleep, you realize the Gulag's ultimate paradox. It strips men bare, revealing both the worst cruelty and most astonishing resilience the human soul can contain. And in that revelation lies its failure. For no system that depends on broken men can withstand those who refuse to stay shattered. The second year begins with a rhythm as familiar as a prisoner's heartbeat. Dawn roll calls and biting cold. Work details stretching through endless daylight. The constant gnaw of hunger that never fully subsides. You've become what the veterans call Dokajaga, a survivor who's learned to navigate the Gulag's treacherous currents. Mikhail falls ill in early summer. A simple cut on his hand festers into something worse. When fever grips him, Isaac administers the last of his stolen antibiotics with hands that tremble, not from cold, but from knowing it won't be enough. Promise me, Mikhail rasps as you spoon weak broth between his cracked lips. You'll teach the new ones what I taught you. His eyes, still sharp despite the fever, hold yours. Not just the tricks. The important part, that we're still men. When he dies 3 days later, the camp doesn't pause. Guards mark his number off their lists. His bunk is reassigned before his body cools. But that night, you and Anna quietly recite Pushkin's elegy, the poem Mikhail loved best. Your voice is barely louder than the wind through the barracks cracks. His death changes everything. Without his guidance, you must navigate the camp's shifting alliances alone. Verona's criminal network has grown bolder, their control over food distribution absolute. When a new transport arrives, mostly intellectuals from Moscow's latest purge, you watch their bewildered faces and understand. You've become what Mikhail was to you. The realization terrifies and steals you in equal measure. Autumn brings an unexpected development, a camp newspaper. The guards call it rehabilitation, its pages filled with production quotas and Stalin speeches. But the prisoners read it differently. Anna deciphers coded messages in the agricultural reports, hints about upcoming food shipments. Pavel discovers that ink from the newspaper's Red Star masthead makes decent dye for frostbite camouflage. They give us their propaganda. Anna murmurs as she folds a page into an origami flower, and we turn it into weapons. The first snow finds you mentoring 2 new arrivals, a teenage boy arrested for writing counter-revolutionary poetry, and an aging professor who keeps forgetting where he is. You teach them the essentials, how to wrap feet against frostbite, which guards can be bribed with tobacco, why one must never volunteer for anything. The boy, Sasha, reminds you painfully of yourself a year ago, all wide eyes and trembling hands. When he asks how you've lasted so long, you give Mikhail's answer, 1 day at a time. Then add your own hard-won wisdom, and find something they can't take from you. For Sasha, it's mathematics. He solves equations in the dirt during breaks, his finger tracing symbols only he can see. The professor clings to Latin declensions, muttering amo, amas, a mat like prayers. You've begun memorizing the camp's routines not just for survival, but as future evidence, recording guard rotations, food shortages, deaths. This becomes your quiet rebellion. Winter returns with familiar brutality, but you face it differently now. When temperatures plunge, you lead the barracks in Mikhail's memory game, describing warm beaches, summer rains, anything to distract from the cold. When rations are cut, you organize food-sharing networks among the political prisoners. One February morning, you're summoned to the commandant's office. Your hands shake. Summonses usually mean trouble. But instead of punishment, you're offered a choice. Become an orderly in the infirmary or continue railway construction. Isaac's warning echoes in your mind. Infirmary work means easier labor, but also witnessing horrors. You accept. The infirmary reveals the Gulag's true face. Prisoners arrive with frostbitten limbs turning gangrenous, with coughs that rattle like death's door hinges. Isaac works miracles with stolen supplies, but the real horror lies in the selections, deciding who gets the last antibiotic, which man is too far gone to save. You'll dream about this. Isaac warns after your first day assisting in amputation. Find something beautiful each day to balance it. You choose the birds, the hardy Siberian jays that peck at the infirmary's refuse. Their stubborn vitality becomes your anchor. By spring's arrival, you've survived 2 full years. The camp has reshaped you, thinned your body, hardened your mind, taught you the price of compassion in a place designed to extinguish it. Yet when Sasha is beaten for his bourgeois equations, you risk your infirmary privileges to steal extra bandages. Why? He asks as you bind his broken fingers. You recall Mikhail's words, but say only, because someone once did the same for me. That night, as northern lights dance over the watchtowers, you realize the Gulag's cruelest truth. It can take your freedom, your health, even your name, but the choice to remain human, that it can never steal. The 3rd year begins with an unexpected discovery, a wild strawberry plant growing near the infirmary's waste pile. You stare at its tiny white flowers like a man witnessing a miracle. When the first berry ripens weeks later, you don't eat it. Instead, you place it in Sasha's palm and watch his eyes widen with something resembling joy. Taste it slowly, you advise, echoing Mikhail's lesson about savoring bread. The moment feels sacred, this sharing of something purely beautiful in a place designed to stamp out beauty. Summer transforms the camp into a different kind of hell. The thaw brings swarms of mosquitoes that descend in black clouds, driving prisoners and guards alike to madness. The infirmary overflows with malaria cases. Isaac teaches you to brew willow bark tea for fever, his hands moving with the precision of the surgeon he once was. You're learning well, he remarks as you bind a prisoner's ulcerated leg. Too well, his tone implies. Medical skills make you valuable, and targets. Verona's criminal network has infiltrated the infirmary, demanding kickbacks for access to bandages or painkillers. When you refuse to cooperate, they retaliate by stealing your food ration. You survive only because Anna organizes a secret sharing system among the political prisoners, each contributing a bite of bread to replace what was taken. They think hunger will break you, she says as you chew your meager portion. Show them it doesn't. Autumn brings rumors of war. The guards grow tense, their beatings more erratic. One afternoon, a transport arrives with German prisoners, the first foreigners you've seen. Their presence confirms what the camp newspaper's censored columns won't state. The Soviet Union is fighting for survival. The Germans are segregated, but their whispers slip through the barracks walls. They speak of cities burning, fronts collapsing. Hope flickers among the prisoners. If the regime falls, perhaps the camps will too. Don't. Isaac warns when he catches you listening. False hope kills faster than typhus. He's right. When winter comes, the promised liberation doesn't. Instead, rations are halved. For the war effort, the camp's already skeletal prisoners begin resembling walking corpses. Sasha develops the telltale swellings of scurvy. You risk punishment by sneaking him pine needle tea from the infirmary. Drink it all, you order, watching his throat work. The tea tastes like resin and bitterness, but it might keep him alive. Christmas Eve brings an astonishing act of defiance. Leonid the actor stands during roll call and begins singing Silent Night, first in Russian, then in German when the guards try to silence him. One by one, prisoners join until the entire yard resonates with forbidden harmony. The commandant's response is swift and brutal. Leonid spends a week in the isolation cell, emerging with frostbitten fingers that will never straighten fully again. But when he shuffles back into the barracks, every prisoner stands in silent tribute. Winter's peak reveals the Gulag's most terrible secret, the hospital for hopeless cases. Officially, it's where the terminally ill receive care. In reality, it's where the system disposes of those no longer productive. When Isaac is ordered to select patients for transfer there, he refuses and disappears into the punishment block for a month. In his absence, you become the closest thing the prisoners have to a doctor. Your hands, once trained for engineering drawings, now stitch wounds and set bones. One freezing night, an elderly professor presses a crumpled paper into your palm, a sonnet written in perfect iambic pentameter about the northern lights. Proof, he whispers, that beauty survives. He dies the next morning, but the poem becomes your secret treasure, folded small and hidden in your boots lining. Spring arrives with muddy chaos. The war news grows increasingly dire for the Nazis, then unexpectedly for the Soviets too. Guards whisper of Stalingrad's fall, their fear palpable. The commandant doubles work quotas, as if extracting more timber might reverse battlefield losses. One May morning, you're assigned to unload a transport from Leningrad. The prisoners who stagger from the train aren't criminals or intellectuals. They're starving civilians, their bellies grotesquely distended from eating wallpaper paste during the siege. Among them is a girl no older than 12, clutching a rag doll with one remaining button eye. When she reaches for you, her sleeve slips back to reveal the tattooed numbers of a concentration camp. In that moment, you understand. There are circles of hell deeper than the Gulag. That night, you dream of Mikhail for the first time in months. He stands in a sunlit field, whole and healthy, holding out a single ripe strawberry. When you wake, your face is wet with tears you didn't know you could still produce. The seasons turn. You teach Sasha how to hide his mathematical proofs in official work reports. You help Anna smuggle French lessons to the German prisoners. You assist Isaac, now returned but permanently hunched from beatings, in brewing medicines from stolen supplies. When your third anniversary in the Gulag passes unremarked, you realize something has shifted. The camp no longer feels like an aberration. It's become your world's foundation. The outside seems like the dream now, its memories fading like old photographs left in sunlight. Only the poetry hidden in your boot, the strawberry plant's stubborn return each summer, and Sasha's quiet, "Thank you," each time you share your bread remind you that another reality exists. One October evening, as you watch the sunset paint the watchtower's gold, Isaac limps to your side. "They're transferring me to another camp tomorrow," he says. No explanation given. None needed. He presses something into your hand, his homemade scalpel, honed from a spoon handle. "For the next doctor," he says. Then, with a rare smile, "You were my best student." That night, the prisoners hold a secret farewell. No speeches, just shared silence and the passing of Isaac's single possession, a tattered volume of Chekhov's plays, from hand to hand like a sacrament. When the transport takes him at dawn, you stand straighter than you have in years. The camp has taken Mikhail, Isaac, and pieces of your soul. But it hasn't won. Not yet. The fourth winter carves its mark into your bones like glacial erosion. You've become a Gulag veteran now, your face weathered into the same leathery mask worn by long-term prisoners, your movements pared down to the minimal expenditure of energy. Even your breathing has changed, adopting the shallow, efficient rhythm of someone conserving every calorie. Sasha, now 17 but still skeletally thin, develops a cough that rattles like pebbles in a tin can. You recognize the sound instantly. Tuberculosis, the Gulag's most reliable killer after starvation. When Isaac left, he smuggled you a list of medical supplies hidden beneath floorboards in the infirmary. Now you trade 2 precious aspirin tablets, worth a week's bread ration on the black market, to a guard for a handful of moldy bread crusts. Penicillin, you explain to Sasha as you press the greenish mold against his cracked lips. Chew slowly. His eyes widen at the bitterness, but he trusts you enough to obey. The camp undergoes subtle shifts as the war drags on. New transports arrive filled with traitors, soldiers who retreated too slowly, factory workers who missed quotas. Their presence confirms what the censored newspapers won't print. The Soviet machine is fracturing. One February morning, a miracle occurs. The commandant announces a patriotic labor competition. The brigade exceeding timber-cutting quotas by 150% will receive double rations for a month. The prisoners exchange glances. This isn't motivation, it's desperation. The Reich must be closer than anyone admits. "We could do it," Stepan murmurs during the lunch break. His hands sketch plans in the snow, reorganizing work teams, redistributing tools. But should we? The debate rages quietly all week. Some argue any extra food justifies helping the regime. Others insist resistance means refusing to boost production, no matter the cost. You find yourself mediating, proposing a middle path. Meet the quota, but sabotage the timber's quality by cutting stress points that will cause future collapses. The plan works. Your brigade wins the competition, gorging on thick barley soup and actual chunks of meat. The guards don't notice the strategic flaws in the cut logs. When those railway supports fail months later, it will happen far from your camp. Spring brings an unexpected development: flowers. Not just the hardy snowdrops of previous years, but whole clusters of purple crocuses pushing through the mud near the infirmary. You assign Sasha to guard them during work details. Knowing the fragile beauty gives him reason to endure the coughing fits racking his thin frame. One evening, returning from the latrine, you witness Verona kneeling beside the flower patch. His massive hands, capable of crushing a man's windpipe in seconds, hover uncertainly over the blooms. When he notices you watching, his usual sneer falters. "My babushka grew these," he mutters, almost embarrassed. Near Kiev, it's the first human detail you've ever heard about the camp's most feared criminal. That night, you leave a single crocus stem outside his bunk. The next morning, your missing spoon reappears under your pillow. Summer's heat brings dysentery. The infirmary overflows with patients shivering despite the sweltering temperatures. You recycle Isaac's lessons: boiling water, using moss as makeshift bandages, hiding the worst cases from guards conducting productivity inspections. During the worst outbreak, a new prisoner arrives, a Red Army captain named Dmitri, arrested for questioning an order. His military bearing hasn't been broken yet, and when he sees you rationing moldy bread as medicine, he barks a laugh. "So this is where the real war is," he says, rolling up his sleeves to help. His hands are surprisingly gentle as he lifts patients onto cleaner straw. By August, the camp's power dynamics shift palpably. The guards grow jumpy, their beatings less calculated. Rumors swirl. Germany has surrendered. Stalin is dead. America has bombed Moscow. The prisoners whispered during work details, passing information like contraband. One September dawn, the unimaginable happens. No wake-up whistle blows. When prisoners finally emerge, they find the watchtowers empty. The commandant's office stands abandoned, documents burning in a hastily lit barrel. For 3 days, the camp exists in surreal limbo. The prisoners organize themselves, distributing food stores, caring for the sick, debating whether to flee or wait for official liberation. Dmitri takes charge naturally, his officers' training emerging. On the 4th morning, a truck arrives flying a white flag. The officials inside speak of reforms and reconsiderations. Their eyes dart nervously at the armed prisoners now guarding the gates. That night, around a bonfire made from propaganda posters, Sasha recites a poem he's written about the strawberry plant. The professor's sonnet about northern lights passes from hand to hand. Someone produces an actual bottle of vodka, and for the first time in years, you taste something besides hunger and fear. Yet when the moment comes to walk through those open gates, you hesitate. The Gulag has reshaped you, its rhythms etched into your muscles, its survival calculus wired into your brain. The outside world seems as foreign now as this place once did. Dmitri finds you staring at the horizon. "It's not over," he says quietly. "They'll try to rebuild this. Somewhere. Always." You nod, watching Sasha help an old man through the gates. Then you take your first free step forward, carrying all the lessons this place taught you, both the terrible and the transcendent. Liberation arrives not with fanfare, but with bureaucratic indifference. The same system that swallowed you whole now spits you out with barely a ripple, a stamped paper, a curt nod, the gates swinging open as indifferently as they once swung shut. You stand blinking in the sunlight, your meager possessions tied in a bundle that seems absurdly light after 4 years of survival. The first steps outside the wire feel like walking on the moon. Your body remembers freedom in theory, the stretch of horizons unobstructed by watchtowers, the absence of shouted commands, but your mind lags behind. At night, you still wake reaching for the bread crust you hid under your mattress. During the day, you catch yourself calculating how many steps to the nearest fence that isn't there. Sasha insists you share his cousin's apartment in Moscow. The city is barely recognizable, not from bombing damage, there is little, but from the sheer strangeness of seeing civilians going about their lives. Women queue for bread without terror in their eyes. Children play hopscotch on sidewalks where no one has disappeared. It feels like a stage set, fragile and temporary. You sleep for 3 days straight on Sasha's floor, your body finally releasing tension held for years. When you wake, the apartment is empty except for a note. Gone to find medicine for mother. There's soup. The pot on the stove contains actual beef broth with floating carrot slices. A feast that makes your hands shake as you lift the spoon. The knock at the door comes just as you're licking the bowl clean. 2 men in suits stand outside, their faces carefully neutral. "Comrade," says the older one, flashing an MGB badge so quickly you almost miss it. "We understand you have medical experience." The clinic they take you to reeks of antiseptic and despair. Rows of cots hold men with the telltale sunken cheeks and hollow eyes of recent camp inmates. They're dying of freedom, the doctor mutters as he shows you around. Released prisoners gorging on rich food after years of starvation, their shrunken stomachs rupturing. Others simply lying down and refusing to wake, as if survival without the Gulag's constant threats has no meaning. You work there 6 weeks, applying the brutal triage skills Isaac taught you. Who can be saved, who's too far gone, how to make the dying comfortable with stolen morphine. The MGB officers watch, take notes, occasionally pull someone from their bed for questioning. You learn not to look when those men don't return. Spring comes late to Moscow that year. One May morning, as you're changing bandages, a familiar cough makes you turn. Dmitri leans against a doorway, his military posture gone, one arm in a sling. "They arrested me again the day after liberation," he says with a tired smile. Different crime this time, knowing too much about camp conditions. He's been here a month, recovering from an interrogation that left 3 fingers broken. Together, you devise a system. He handles the paperwork to shield patients from bureaucracy, while you focus on medical care. It's not so different from the Gulag's survival partnerships, just with cleaner sheets. The letters begin arriving in June. First Anna's, she made it to Leningrad, is teaching French illegally. Then Pavel's scrawled note about working in a Kazan factory. Last comes Isaac's, posted from a Siberian village so remote even the party barely acknowledges its existence. "The locals call me grandfather doctor," he writes. "I've delivered 12 babies this winter, named one after you." You keep these letters folded inside your boot, just like the professor's sonnet. At night, you take them out and arrange them on the floor like a map, proof that survival wasn't just your own lonely struggle, but a web of connections stretching across the vast, wounded country. Sasha finds you like that one evening, sitting cross-legged amidst the papers. He's grown taller in peacetime, though his shoulders still hunch from years of making himself small. "They approved my university application," he says, voice cracking with disbelief. "Mathematics. They actually want me to solve equations now." You attend his first lecture as a joke, the former Gulag rat playing proud parent. But when Sasha stands at the chalkboard, his hands steady as he unfolds an elegant proof about prime numbers, something breaks open in your chest. Later, at his dormitory, you press your last treasure into his palm, Isaac's handmade scalpel, its edge still sharp after all these years. "Keep it hidden," you say, echoing the words spoken to you long ago in another life. The streets of Moscow seem brighter on your walk home. The women's laughter in the bread line no longer sounds like madness. Even the MGB agents shadowing you from a distance seem less threatening, just more frightened men in a frightened system, clinging to control as the world changes around them. That night, for the first time since your arrest, you dream not of the camp, but of Mikhail standing in a sunlit field. He holds out not a strawberry this time, but a simple wooden flute. When you wake, your face is wet, but your hands are steady as you pack your few belongings. The train to Siberia leaves at dawn. The Trans-Siberian Railway stretches before you like a steel suture across the country's wounds. You board the train with your meager possessions, a change of clothes, Isaac's letters, The professor's sonnet now softened at the edges from constant handling. The compartment smells of coal smoke and stale bread, a combination that inexplicably comforts you. 3 days into the journey, the landscape outside begins shedding its civilized veneer. Forests thicken, villages grow sparse, until finally there are only trees and telegraph poles racing past the window in an endless gray-green blur. It reminds you of the Gulag transports, except now you have a seat, a ticket, and most miraculously, no guards. The elderly woman sharing your compartment eyes your camp-issue boots, but says nothing until the second night, when she wordlessly pushes a wrapped parcel across the seat. Inside, 2 hard-boiled eggs and a chunk of honey cake. Eat, she says, not unkindly. You're too thin to be traveling alone. The food sticks in your throat, not from lack of hunger, but from the shock of receiving something with no strings attached. When you try to thank her, she waves it away. My son came back from the camps last year. Different ones than yours, I think. He doesn't startle at loud noises like you do, but he also licks his plate clean. Her name is Galina, and by the time the train reaches Omsk, you know her entire family history. The husband lost at Stalingrad, the daughter who married a party official, the grandson who wants to be a poet. Stupid boy, she mutters, but her eyes shine. At Krasnoyarsk, she presses another package into your hands, a knitted scarf and mittens. Siberia isn't like Moscow, is all she says before disembarking. You watch her through the window, a small figure swallowed by the platform's steam, and realize with a start that this is the first gift you've accepted without calculating its cost since your arrest. The taiga grows denser as the train climbs north. The stations become little more than wooden platforms where bundled figures exchange crates under the watchful eyes of rifle-toting militiamen. When the conductor announces your stop, a village whose name isn't on any map you've seen, the other passengers avoid your gaze. No one gets off here unless they have no other choice. The station master takes one look at your papers and snorts. Isaac's city friend, he spits into the snow. 2 kilometers east. Look for the blue door. You walk because there are no taxis, no buses, just an icy road winding between pines so tall they block the afternoon sun. The cold is different here than in the camp. Sharper, cleaner, without the constant undercurrent of despair. Your breath plumes ahead of you like a scout, and for the first time in years, you notice how beautiful vapor can be when it's not mixed with the stench of unwashed bodies. Isaac's house is barely larger than a Gulag barracks, but its blue door stands out like a flag against the snow. When he opens it, his face undergoes a series of transformations: shock, joy, something resembling grief, before settling into the familiar calm mask of the camp doctor. You're late, he says, stepping aside to let you in. The single room is warm from a roaring stove, shelves lined with jars of herbs and tinctures. A young woman, maybe 18, nurses a baby in the corner. She eyes you warily until Isaac says, "This is the one I told you about." Then her face softens. Over stew made with actual meat, you learn the village's secrets. How Isaac arrived with nothing but his medical knowledge and a willingness to deliver babies in the middle of blizzards. How the locals protect him because healers are rarer than party loyalty in these parts. How the baby in the corner, now sleeping against your coat, is indeed named after you, though they've been calling her Nina until your arrival confirmed you weren't a ghost. That night, as the northern lights shimmer overhead like the professor's poem come to life, Isaac shows you his latest project, a handwritten medical manual combining Gulag improvisations with traditional Siberian remedies. "For when I'm gone," he says, though he looks healthier than you've ever seen him. Days settle into a rhythm. Mornings assisting Isaac with patients, frostbite, childbirth, the occasional bullet wound from drunken hunting accidents. Afternoons repairing the village's single radio, whose parts you cannibalize with skills honed in the camp's underground economy. Evenings teaching Nina's mother to read, her fingers tracing letters in the lamplight with the same reverence Sasha showed his equations. One March morning, as you're inventorying medical supplies, a commotion erupts outside. 2 militiamen drag a bloodied young man into the yard, a fugitive from a nearby logging camp. Isaac doesn't hesitate, just rolls up his sleeves and begins cleaning the wounds while you boil water. Later, when the militiamen are drinking themselves stupid on stolen vodka, the fugitive whispers his truth. He's no criminal, just a university student who questioned a professor's Marxist interpretation of Pushkin. His hands, soft with ink stains rather than labor, confirm the story. Isaac doesn't even consult you. By dawn, the boy is gone, outfitted with supplies and directions to a hermit's cabin deep in the taiga. The militiamen wake blearily, accepting Isaac's lie about the prisoner succumbing to his injuries. You bury an empty coffin with proper Orthodox rites, the entire village attending solemnly. That night, as you add the boy's name and last known location to your growing mental map of the disappeared, Isaac catches your expression. It never ends, he says quietly. The camps, the fear, the choices. But when Nina giggles from her cradle, kicking at the mobile you fashioned from scrap metal, something shifts in his face. Still, he adds, the world keeps making new reasons to resist, doesn't it? Spring comes late, but fiercely. The river ice breaks with cannon-like booms, flooding the lower fields. You help build drainage channels, your Gulag-honed endurance making you invaluable. The villagers no longer call you Isaac's friend. Now you're simply the engineer, a title bestowed with rough affection. One May evening, as you're repairing a fishing net, the radio crackles to life with unexpected clarity. A voice from Moscow recites a list of industrial achievements. Then, between bursts of static, mentions reconsideration of certain judicial excesses. The villagers ignore it, but you and Isaac exchange glances. The thaw isn't just meteorological. By midsummer, the first official visitor arrives, a party recruiter here to assess revolutionary consciousness. He eyes Isaac's medical text suspiciously, but leaves after being served homemade vodka that leaves him too drunk to notice the hidden compartment under the floorboards. The real change comes in August, when a black Volga sedan sputters into the village. The man who steps out wears a suit too thin for Siberia, his briefcase handcuffed to his wrist. But it's his shoes that catch your attention, polished Moscow leather, unscarred by camp mud or taiga brambles. Comrade, he says, ignoring the villagers' stares, we have questions about your medical qualifications. Isaac straightens to his full height, taller than you remember. Ask. The man from Moscow doesn't give a name, only flashes a badge that could mean anything. MGB, party inspector, maybe just some minor functionary trying to impress. But his eyes linger too long on the medical texts, on the jars of herbs, on the way Isaac's hands don't shake when pouring tea. You were a surgeon, the man says, not a question. Before, Isaac's face remains impassive. I delivered a baby last night. That's all that matters here. The man ignores this, flipping open his briefcase to reveal a file stamped with the seal of the Ministry of Health. There's a clinic in Irkutsk needing your skills. Proper equipment. Real medicine. He pauses. A pardon, fully official. The offer hangs in the air like a blade. You watch Isaac's fingers tighten around his cup, just slightly, but you know him well enough to read the tension. A pardon means more than freedom. It means Nina could attend university someday, that her mother wouldn't live in fear of midnight knocks. And the price? Isaac asks quietly. The man smiles, revealing teeth too even to be natural. Just your signature on a few forms. Some reassessments of past cases. You understand immediately. They want him to retroactively approve camp medical decisions, to put an official stamp on deaths that were really murders, to say the system worked as it should. Isaac sets down his cup with deliberate care. I'll need time to consider. The man's smile doesn't waver. Of course, I'll return in 3 days. The moment his car disappears down the muddy road, the village gathers. Old women who've never spoken to you press jars of preserves into your hands. The blacksmith offers a hunting knife with a bone handle. Even the usually drunk schoolteacher presents a battered copy of Chekhov's plays, the same edition Isaac once passed around the barracks. They'll arrest him if he refuses. You say that night, watching Isaac rock Nina to sleep. He doesn't look up. I know. The next 48 hours pass in a blur of preparations. You help Isaac organize his notes into two sets: the official medical records for the inspector, and a hidden ledger detailing every death he witnessed, every life he saved against orders. The latter gets sewn into the lining of Nina's winter coat, along with the professor's sonnet and your own list of names. On the third morning, the inspector returns accompanied by two armed men. Their presence makes the villagers scatter like birds, except for the blacksmith, who leans against his forge with a hammer in hand. "Well?" the inspector asks, already reaching for his pen. Isaac takes a deep breath. Then, with the same calm he once used to diagnose typhus in the camps, he says, "I'll need better terms." The negotiation that follows is a masterclass in deception. Isaac agrees to consult for the Irkutsk clinic, but only seasonally, so he can continue serving the village. He'll sign the forms, but insists on reviewing each case personally, buying time. Most crucially, he secures written guarantees. Nina and her mother will receive education allowances, the village an actual medical supply shipment. The inspector leaves satisfied, his briefcase full of meaningless promises. The moment his car vanishes, Isaac collapses into a chair, looking older than you've ever seen him. "They'll come for you eventually," you say? He nods. "But not today." And every day Nina grows stronger is a victory. Summer fades into a tense autumn. The promised medical supplies arrive: bandages, real antibiotics, even a stethoscope. You inventory everything twice, hiding half in the usual caches. The villagers pretend not to notice, but their gifts grow more frequent. Fresh-caught fish left on the doorstep, baskets of berries accidentally dropped near your hut. One October evening, as you're repairing the radio, a voice cuts through the static, a news bulletin about rehabilitated comrades being welcomed back into society. The names mean nothing to you until the last. Professor Dmitry Petrovich Volkov, unjustly sentenced in 1947, has been restored to his position at Leningrad University. Dmitry, the Red Army captain from the camp, alive. You're still processing this when the door bursts open. Nina's mother stands there, face white. "Isaac, come quickly." The patient is a hunter from a distant village, feverish and coughing blood. Tuberculosis advanced. As Isaac prepares a dose of the precious antibiotics, the man grabs your wrist. "You from the camps?" he rasps. You nod, startled. His next words come between gasps. "Saw your list. My brother's name on it. Died in 49. He presses something into your palm, a tiny photograph of a young soldier. "Tell me how." And so you do. Not the sanitized version, but the truth. How his brother shared his last bread with a dying boy. How his body was stacked with dozens of others. How you whispered the Lord's Prayer over them because no one else would. The man listens, tears cutting tracks through the grime on his face. When you finish, he takes back the photo and tucks it carefully into his shirt pocket, right over his heart. "Thank you," he says simply. Isaac watches this exchange with quiet approval. Later, as you walk home under a sky streaked with auroras, he says, "This is why we remember. Not for the dead, for the living who need to know." Winter comes early that year. The first snow finds you teaching Nina to read, her small finger tracing the letters of Isaac's medical manual. Outside, the wind howls like the Gulag's ghosts, but inside, the stove burns warm and bright. One December morning, a package arrives from Moscow, a book of mathematics problems addressed in Sasha's precise handwriting. Tucked between the pages, a newspaper clipping about a young scholar's award-winning thesis. The photo shows Sasha standing proudly beside a blackboard covered in equations, his camp-hollowed cheeks finally filled out. You add the clipping to your growing collection, smiling at the thought of Isaac's ledger continuing its journey outward, one name, one story at a time. Then the radio crackles with news that stops you cold. Stalin is dead. The village reacts with eerie quiet. No celebrations, no mourning, just a collective holding of breath. That night, Isaac opens his last bottle of vodka, pouring 2 glasses. "To the bastard's demise," he mutters. You clink glasses, but the toast feels hollow. Both of you know too well, systems don't die with their creators. Sure enough, within weeks, new directives arrive. The village's party secretary, previously a lazy drunk, suddenly demands increased grain quotas. Inspectors appear at random intervals, sniffing for dissent. One freezing February night, as you're returning from a difficult berth in the next village, figures emerge from the tree line. Your hand goes to the blacksmith's knife until you recognize the hunter from months earlier. "We have people in Irkutsk," he says without preamble. They say they're recalling Isaac, reviewing his case. His tone makes the euphemism clear. You run the rest of the way, bursting into the hut to find Isaac already packing. He takes one look at your face and nods. "I expected this." The escape is shockingly simple. The hunter provides a sled and reindeer. Nina's mother bundles up the child without tears. She's known this day would come. Only at the last moment does Isaac press his medical manual into your hands. "Finish it," he says. Then, with a ghost of his old camp smile, "You were always my best student." You watch the sled disappear into the pre-dawn gloom, the auroras painting their path in unearthly light. When the inspectors come at dawn, they find only you, sitting calmly by the fire, the radio playing cheerful Soviet marches. "Where is he?" the lead inspector snarls. You meet his gaze without blinking. "Who?" Spring arrives like a hesitant guest in Siberia, the thaw revealing secrets buried beneath winter's white shroud. With Isaac gone, the village appoints you as its unofficial healer, not because you're qualified, but because you're the only one who won't faint at the sight of blood. The medical manual becomes your Bible, its pages stained with herbal tinctures and your own marginal notes. Nina's mother moves into your hut without discussion. She brings Isaac's old stethoscope and a stubbornness that reminds you of Anna from the camps. Together, you turn the place into a proper clinic. The blacksmith builds shelves, the schoolteacher donates books, and the old women teach you which mushrooms can kill pain as effectively as morphine. One April morning, while sorting supplies, you find a hidden compartment in Isaac's desk. Inside lies a stack of letters addressed to you, each dated and sealed. The first reads, "If you're reading this, I'm either dead or in another camp. Don't grieve. Teach Nina to read with this." Enclosed is a child's primer with Cyrillic letters illustrated by smiling animals. The letters arrive monthly, delivered by hunters who refuse to say where they came from. Some contain medical advice, others news from the outside world. Dmitri reinstated at his university, Sasha publishing a groundbreaking paper, whispers of Khrushchev's secret speech denouncing Stalin's crimes. The last one holds only a dried snowdrop pressed between the pages. Summer brings unexpected visitors. First comes a government team surveying the region for mineral deposits. They stay a week, their Geiger counters clicking ominously near the river. Then, in August, a truck disgorges a dozen city youths, volunteers here to modernize the village. Their leader, a party zealot barely older than Sasha, tries to turn the clinic into a propaganda center until Nina's mother chases him out with a broom. The real trouble starts in September. A party official arrives with orders to collectivize the remaining private farms. The villagers resist passively, losing livestock, misunderstanding instructions, until the night the official's car mysteriously catches fire. No one investigates too closely. Winter descends with a vengeance. The first blizzard isolates the village for weeks. You deliver 3 babies by lantern light, using techniques Isaac described in his letters. When pneumonia sweeps through, you brew pine needle tea by the gallon, hearing his voice in your head. Treat the patient, not just the disease. Nina turns 5 during the coldest week of January. You mark the occasion by teaching her to write her name in the medical ledger, right beneath Isaac's last entry. Her tongue pokes out in concentration, the pencil dwarfed in her small hand. When she finishes, she looks up with Isaac's exact expression and asks, "Can we write to Grandpa now?" The question hangs in the air. You've told her Isaac is traveling, never specifying when he might return. But as you study her hopeful face, a realization crystallizes. Survival isn't about waiting for the past to return. It's about building something new from its fragments. That night, you begin a new ledger, not of deaths, but of lives. Nina's growth chart goes on the first page. Then the names of babies you've delivered, patients you've treated, even the sullen city youths who eventually came to you for hangover cures. Spring returns, and with it, change. The new party secretary, a pragmatic former soldier, turns a blind eye to the village's quirks in exchange for steady grain deliveries. The schoolteacher starts giving real history lessons instead of party dogma. And one May morning, a battered truck brings the most surprising arrival yet. A crate of real medical supplies from Irkutsk, addressed simply, "To the doctor." There's no return address, but tucked between ampoules of penicillin lies a single sheet of paper. On it, in handwriting you'd recognize anywhere, are the coordinates of 7 other villages like yours, places where former prisoners have quietly put down roots. A map of the disappeared, drawn in Isaac's precise hand. You add it to your collection, smiling at the thought of your own name being passed along that hidden network. The system tried to erase you, but you persist, not as a number, not as a victim, but as a keeper of stories, a link in a chain stretching backward and forward through time. That evening, as you walk Nina home from the schoolhouse, she suddenly squeezes your hand. "Look," she cries, pointing to a patch of melting snow. There, braving the last chill of winter, blooms a single snowdrop, its white petals trembling in the twilight like a promise. You kneel beside it, letting the child's excited chatter wash over you. Somewhere beyond the taiga, Isaac might be tending another forgotten village. Sasha is probably hunched over equations in Moscow. Anna could be reciting French poetry to students in Leningrad. And you're here, in this moment, alive against all odds. The Gulag tried to reduce you to nothing, but you are the sum of every hand that reached out in darkness, every voice that whispered survive, every act of defiance large and small. You breathe in the crisp spring air and rise, taking Nina's hand as you walk toward home. Not the one you lost, but the one you've built, day by stubborn day.